Ali Khamenei was not just a man in a black turban. For nearly 4 decades, he stood at the peak of a system of power rarely seen in modern history. A system where religion, the military, and the state fused into one. A system where power did not lie in the vote of the people, but in the decree of a cleric. Since 1989, every major decision in Iran has led back to a single place, the office of the supreme leader in Tehran. Domestic policy, foreign policy, war, peace, the nuclear program, all of it passed through him. Ali Khamenei was not merely a leader. He was the guardian of the doctrine of an entire revolution. A doctrine that believed the United States was a permanent enemy, Israel was an adversary that must be erased, and Iran had a mission to reshape the world order. But then one night in Tehran, the sky suddenly erupted in flames. Streaks of fire cut across the darkness. Missiles tore through the air and slammed into the compound where the most powerful man in Iran had lived for 36 years. When the smoke cleared, the world realized something no one had imagined. The man guarding that doctrine was gone. And immediately, a question echoed across the planet. When the symbol of an ideology collapses, does the ideology die with it? To understand this moment, we must turn back the clock. Back to 1979, the year the Middle East changed forever. Iran exploded in a revolution that shook the entire region. The pro-Western monarchy of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi collapsed within months. From the ashes of that empire, an exiled cleric returned like a prophet of a new age. His name was Ruhollah Khomeini. Under his leadership, Iran became something entirely different, the Islamic Republic of Iran. But Khomeini did not simply want to rule Iran, he wanted to export revolution. According to his doctrine, Islam was not only a religion, it had to become a global political system, a weapon against the West, against liberalism, against the influence of the United States. From this emerged a concept that would reshape modern politics, the absolute rule of the cleric. In this doctrine, supreme power does not lie in parliament, does not lie in the ballot, but in the hands of a cleric believed to represent the will of God. That person is called the supreme leader. When Khomeini died in 1989, Iran had to choose a successor. Many believed the position would go to a famous cleric. But what happened next surprised all of Tehran. A name few people knew was elevated, Ali Khamenei. The problem was, he did not even possess the religious rank required to hold the position. Iran's constitution had to be amended to legitimize the appointment. Many in the elite at the time believed he was merely a temporary compromise figure. They were wrong. As soon as he took power, Khamenei began building his network of authority. He placed loyalists in the courts, in national television, in the security apparatus. But his greatest instrument of power was the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Under Khamenei, it was no longer just a military force. It became an empire, a military empire, an economic conglomerate, a parallel power structure alongside the state. Every domestic uprising was crushed. The student movement of 1999, the Green Movement of 2009, the nationwide protests of 2022, all ended the same way: arrests, censorship, and violence. But Khamenei's vision did not stop at Iran's borders. For 3 decades, he built a network of forces stretching across the Middle East. In Lebanon, there was Hezbollah. In Yemen, there was the Houthi movement. In Syria, there were forces protecting the Assad regime. In Iraq, there were Shiite militias funded by Iran. On paper, these groups were independent, but in reality, they formed a network Tehran called the Axis of Resistance, a system that allowed Iran to strike enemies, destabilize the region, and expand its influence without declaring war. Under Khamenei, anti-Americanism was not just a slogan, it became the backbone of the regime. In his speeches, the United States was called the Great Satan. In his worldview, liberal democracy was a threat, Western culture was an invasion, and Iran had to lead the global resistance against that order. Even when Iran signed a nuclear agreement with the West, Khamenei still declared that the United States could not be trusted. Every negotiation was merely a tactic, not reconciliation, but Iran did not act alone. Over the past 2 decades, a new axis of power has formed in the world. An axis without treaties, without joint declarations, yet united by a shared goal, challenging the order led by the United States. Within this axis, China provides economic power, Russia provides military power, Iran provides revolutionary ideology, and Ali Khamenei supplied the moral narrative for the entire system. Then the world began to change. Russia became bogged down in the war in Ukraine, China's economy slowed, U.S. alliances expanded across Asia. In the Middle East, many countries began to see Iran as a common threat. A rare strategic alignment started to emerge, and when all of these factors converged, a geopolitical window opened. It was in that very moment that Ali Khamenei disappeared. His death created an enormous power vacuum. In the first hours, Hezbollah demanded revenge. Iraqi militias waited for orders. Oil markets trembled. But the most frightening thing was the silence. No clear command, no center of control. A system that had once operated through a single man suddenly lost its direction. Inside Iran, a power struggle erupted. On one side were conservative clerics who wanted to continue the anti-American legacy. On the other side were pragmatic technocrats who understood Iran could not live forever under isolation and sanctions. For the first time since 1979, the ideology of the Islamic Republic revealed cracks. In Washington, strategists saw a rare opportunity: stabilize the Middle East, reduce Iran's influence, and shift focus to a larger rival, China. If Iran changes, the entire geopolitical chessboard will change. The world is entering a new era, not a Cold War, not a hot war, but a global competition between two systems. On one side are the democracies led by the United States. On the other are loosely connected authoritarian regimes that share a common goal of challenging the current order. This conflict will not only unfold on battlefields, it will unfold in global supply chains, in technology, in artificial intelligence, in energy, and in geopolitical influence. Great wars in history often begin with gunfire. But the confrontation of the 21st century began differently. It began with the fall of a symbol. The death of Ali Khamenei did not end a conflict. It opened a new chapter of history. The Middle East is shifting. Alliances are rearranging. Great powers are choosing sides. A systemic war has begun, not with tanks, not with bombs, but with ideology, power, and the world order. And it all began with the silence inside the residence of a cleric in Tehran.